node has multiple scripts. Alright, so you can see my little character here has one main script attached to it over on the left hand side, as you can see inside the scene tree. But if you were to look at the file system, you can see that I also have a movement script and a gravity script. And if we look over to the right at the inspector, we can see that I have my movement script attached to it and a gravity script attached to it, and they have their own properties. And not only that, everything is actually split out, so my movement controls my movement and my gravity only controls the gravity. So if you're coming from an engine like Unity where you used to having multiple scripts, this is the method I'm going to show you here today is the closest approach that you can get to that. And hopefully that is enough or works well for you. And if you've someone that's just been using Godot for however long, hopefully this shows you another technique that you could use if you have been wanting to use multiple scripts on one object, or wanting to split up your code like many Unity users do. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump into the code. Alright, so starting off, we just have our little main scene here. I have my character body, my character here, right? It's just got a sprite and a collision shape, and I have a static body with a collision shape that's just acting as my floor down here. Alright, this is the edge of the world. I can go ahead and move that up, sure, doesn't matter. And you see we're not going to follow anything because we don't have any scripts loaded on my character. And if I were to go ahead and load the script that I have attached to it, you can see it's completely empty here. So we're going to go ahead and create this from, I would say, scratch. What we're going to do is we're going to go and create a new script. This is going to be my player gravity script. I'm going to go ahead and hit create. I'll open that up and I'll go ahead and create another one as well. New script. It's going to be player movement for my script. Alright, so I have a gravity script, I have a I have a character script, I have a player gravity script, and I'll open that player movement script. Alright, so we need to get these to work. Now, your initial thought, if you know how to, if you've used Godot before, you've seen in the inspector that I have an export, so you would assume that I do an export. It's obviously a variable of some sort. And let's go with the gravity. A gravity script, and you might come in and you might check out and try to do script. Oh, it works. Cool. We go to our character. We can come in, we can do a new script, or we can quick load and we can pick a script and load it in. And you would think that's fine, but it's actually not, because this actually has issues. This would only work for being able to like call static functions off a script. If you try to call, say, the process function, for example, then you're going to get an error saying, hey, we can't call this, it's a non-static function, we can't do this. So you're just going to end up with errors. So we actually have to go about this in a different way. But for now, I'll just go ahead and I'll just leave that there, I suppose, just to get rid of that error. Alright, so let's go over to our gravity script. Now, what we're going to do is we're actually going to start by giving this a name. So this way we can just easily identify it for when we want to use it. So we'll say class name, and I'm going to call this gravity. Yeah, I'm just going to call this gravity. It's going to extend a type, and instead of a node, what I'm going to do is extend a resource. This. Alright, and to get this to work, we actually need to do a small amount of setup. And for that, it's with gravity here, it's only two things here. And we're going to create a variable called owner. And we have an export for gravity that we can easily manipulate in the inspector. Alright, so in order to get this to work, we're going to need to set the sorry, not set anything yet. But we're actually going to go into our physics process because gravity is affecting a physics object, right? So we're gonna have physics involved when something like gravity's work. So we're going to go create a physics process with a delta argument, and we're going to say if not owner is on floor, then owner dot velocity y plus equals gravity times delta. So basically, if the owner, which is the character body 2D, is not on the floor, so if it's up in the air, then we're going to pull them down with gravity, right? Pull them right back down. And if we go ahead, we can go to our character script now, and instead of declaring this as a script, we can now declare this as a gravity type. And if we go ahead to our dropdown, we can say new gravity, open that up, and now we have our numbers here for our gravity. Now, if you go and try to run this, you're going to run into this issue where you're going to be like, okay, nothing's working. We have a physics process there, so you would assume that would be running, but nothing's happening. Is the code broken? What's going on here? And no, the code isn't actually broken. Remember, first of all, it doesn't know what the owner is. So let's fix that real quick. And for that, we're just going to be going into a for loop. And this for loop is just basically going to say for each of our scripts that's attached to our character. So for now, I'll put just the gravity script. So our array is currently only holds one, but of course you saw there we're also going to have like the movement script in there. So we're going to say if script. So just to make sure that, right, we go through these and there it's not null, right? Because if we had it like this, then it would be empty. If script would not be triggered because we didn't put anything in there. So we could go ahead and put an else in there and push a warning if we wanted to. But we're going to assign the gravity there in the inspector, right? So if script, then what we're going to do is we're going to say script.owner equals self, right? So we're going to say, okay, the owner that you're going to manipulate in your code is me. And really, that's all we have to do for that setup. But if your code, the script you attach has something like an init function, right, to initialize itself, then you could just add in here if script dot has method, right, we'll say init, right, or even do the underscore for the built-in init. Then we can do script dot init, right? So we'll say if it has the initialization function, initialize it. Okay, so we now have it set so it's going to manipulate us. We're telling who to manipulate, but we're still not falling. Now, the reason for this is because our physics process inside of this code for our gravity, this isn't actually going to run because it's not attached to anything, right? We're creating or loading a script, or creating a new instance of it, but it's not actually attached to anything, so it's not running. So how do we get something like the physics process here to run so that we can fall? Because we've already set the owner, and our owner is currently not on the floor, right? It's floating up in the air in the top left corner, but it's not being pulled down. So in order to actually go about this, all we have to do, I'm going to go to my character, and I'll go func, right? I'll create my own physics process here. And I'll just go ahead and do gravity script dot physics process and pass in the delta. That's all I'm going to do. And this is going to run just like a normal script, right? Because when your script runs, you have a process portion of the frame, you have a physics process of the frame. So the physics process is going to run inside the physics process section or part of the frame. And it's going to run through this code that we created one time during that frame, right? Makes sense. That's exactly what happens with a script when we attach it to other nodes. So if we just do this, that single space is going to bug me. But if we simply do that and have the physics process actually calling every frame, we run it, well, we can see we're still not falling. Now, why is that exactly? Well, if you've created a movement script before, or you've worked with gravity, whatever, anything that's kind of working with the velocity property here of a character body 2D, then you should have recognized here that on our gravity, we're actually missing something. We're missing our owner dot move and slide or move and glide, whatever functional reaction that we want, right? So we just added owner dot move and slide, and there we go. We now fall down. Gravity is now being applied from a second script that's attached to our character. And we can do the same thing with movement. Now, I don't want to go ahead and run through everything that we just did with the gravity, put it another way. But again, class, give it a name. Class name is going to be movement. It's extending a resource. I have my sorry about that. I have my variables put in there, right? So my owner plus any additional variables, including exports that I want to be able to manipulate from the inspector. On down, I have my physics process. Again, I have owner move and slide here. I also have it in the gravity. So if we actually wanted to remove the redundancy, we could actually just pull both of those out of there and then just stick it inside of our physics process on the character itself, right? So it's just do move and slide and put it there. But other than that, that's all we need to put in. So physics process, I'm just getting the direction using get action strength. I showed you in another video multiple ways that you can do input. And again, we're just manipulating the X property of our velocity, of our direction times speed. And we can go ahead and run that. And if I use my arrow keys, well, we're not moving very fast. We're super slow. In fact, we're so slow, we're not even moving because I didn't add this script. So I'll go ahead and add another variable, which will be our movement script. Type will be movement. I'll add this to our for loop. So we have the gravity script and the movement script. I'll go to the inspector and say new movement, open that up. And I'm going to manipulate this to say 1000 for my speed. Run it. And I forgot one thing. I rushed through that, set it up, but we're not actually calling the physics process. So again, you got to remember to come on down, do movement script dot physics process and pass in the delta. So that's my mistake, trying to rush through that a little bit, and I forgot one step. But you can see, now we can run around, and our external movement script is attached. Now we have a movement script and a gravity script attached. That's 2 scripts plus the main script, so that's a total of 3 scripts that are attached to this single node. And if you wanted to do, if you didn't want to use something like physics process for your button inputs, right? So I'll go here to here as well. I'll use func, input, right? Because that's a function that gets used constantly. An input event type, right? Void, right? And then I'm just going to go ahead and, for example purpose here, I'm just going to print the event. All right, so I'm going to print whatever button that gets pressed. All right, so let's say event dot as text, sure. All right, and by default we know that's not going to work, so we'll go to our character. We'll do the input function. There we go. We'll do the input function, and just like before, we're going to have to get into our movement script dot input, and we'll pass in the event from our main script over into our movement script in this case. So now when I press a button, we should see the button getting printed out. H, J, K, L, right? M, N, B, V, C, X, Z, A, D. I'm sorry, S, D, F, G, T, R, E, W, Q. Right? It all goes in there. As well as, of course, our mouse motion, because that is an input event. Right? So if you wanted to use input events or use the input function, it's the same thing. It's just if you have basically a built-in function that you would typically use, like physics process, input, just process, things like that, you would just have to call that function on your attached script. Right, so a physics process, call inside a physics process, pass the delta. Your input function on your external script being called inside the input function, pass in the event. And the same thing, call your process function from your external script inside of your main script's process function. Right, same thing, same kind of setup here. Right, so just by doing this is already starting to run on a little long, but you can get the idea. We can go ahead and we can add another script and another, right? So we can easily come in, and again, new script, say player interactions, open that up. Right, we'll do class name, interactions, extends, resource, character, export var, interaction script. It is a interactions type. Select my character, go into the inspector. On our interaction script variable, do new interaction. We can open that up to get any of our exports that we can manipulate. And our ready function will just add this into our list. So we'll do comma, interaction, script. And if we want to make this a little cleaner, we could go like this and have one on each line. Right, just to make things a little nicer to look at. This is already being set, so we're inside of our for loop. And then again, in our interaction, we can just come in here, interaction script dot physics process, pass in the delta, and we'll be good. We've now added a third external script, or third script attached to this node aside from the main script, which would be a total of 4 scripts. All right, so hopefully that gives you an idea of how you can attach multiple scripts onto a singular node. And the benefit that you would get from this, if you've seen the multi-mesh video, is with the multi-mesh video, each additional node that you add to your scene tree gives a small hit to performance. So obviously the more nodes that you have, the more performance that you're going to have, which of course results in less FPS. This, we're kind of just working with the code portion. So we do have less nodes in the scene tree. So the idea here would be, hopefully, instead of adding pointless nodes that just has a script attached to it, that's all it's doing. Hopefully you can use this and create your own, or save some performance with that. It's the idea. I haven't used this in a huge project, but it's the idea at least.